this is how I healed. I just want to share that there's hope on the other side. There's hope. For years, I blamed myself. For years, I held such heaviness within, wondering how I got myself in this circumstance, and then wondering how did I get myself in this circumstance again. I really pray that this video brings you some encouragement and reminds you just how precious and valuable you are, and how people who don't see that should not define how you view yourself. And so allow me to be your older sister and just love on you a little bit through this video. Let's get right into it. I used to drink a lot when I was in college and go to all the parties, and I realized that the reason I was doing all of that was because I was really looking for attention. I was looking for validation. I was looking for companionship. I was looking for love. A lot of that is not bad. Who doesn't want to be valued? Who doesn't want to be loved and admired? And the problem was that I kept searching through humans. And what sucks is how long it took me to realize that humans always disappoint and always fail. And for some reason, I kept giving new humans another chance, and I kept blaming this human, me, when things didn't go well. The heaviness and the weight that I carried for years brought me into even worse situationships and into even worse circumstances. And it wasn't until I found true love, and I am not talking about in a relationship with a person. It wasn't until I found true love that I finally found freedom. It was my birthday. This was my senior year of college, and my friends were like, "It's your birthday. I know you gave up drinking all those, all those months, but like, it's your birthday. Like, let's just have fun and not worry about it." And I was like, you know what? Why not? The result of what happened that evening, I blacked out. I woke up in my dorm room with somebody that was a friend of mine. I so much did not remember what happened. I had to go up to that person and ask what happened. I knew deep down, but I didn't want it to be true. I woke up in pain, but I didn't want it to be true. For years, I had denied and told guys that I'm keeping myself for marriage. I'm keeping myself for marriage. So I didn't want it to be true. So when I found out that it was true, and when I told someone close to me what had happened, and their reply was, "How could you get yourself in that circumstance?" Oh my goodness, did I put blame on myself. What so sucks is I kept finding myself in these relationships. I kept giving people the benefit of the doubt. I kept telling people I don't want to do X, Y, or Z, and they would say, okay. But then later, when they couldn't take it anymore, I was the problem. Well, why don't you want to? Don't you want to make me feel good? All of just these lies. So of course, the self-blame kept just piling. It wasn't until a horrible incident happened in a foreign country where I needed to seek help from others because I did not know how to take care of these things in a foreign country. It wasn't until I found myself in that place of really needing help and really having to talk these things out with people that I realized how much blame I was putting on myself and how twisted the lies had become. In March of 2023, I had quit drinking for a very long time at this point. And for my friend's birthday, she wanted to go out to some bars and some places. The first lesson to learn is that you never, ever, ever have to do things that you don't want to do. And you don't have to people please. You don't have to people please. People pleasing will hurt you. You might not even realize how much it's hurting you, but it will really, really hurt you. Compromising in your values, compromising for the sake of a friend, for a boy, it's not worth it. It's never, ever worth it. Stay true to who you are, stay true to what you believe, and people who genuinely love you will really respect that you hold those values so passionately. They'll admire you, not think less of you. And if they do think less of you, it's time for them to go, okay? And I do not blame my friend at all. I was the one caught in people pleasing. So I was telling her, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" Because she was like, I don't actually have any plans for my birthday. I was like, what are we gonna do? We gotta celebrate, let's go. And I dropped my own personal standards to try to please her for her big day. When we could have done other things, we could have had fun in so many ways. She's an awesome girl. I know we could have done a million other things, but because I dropped my own standards for myself, I ended up in one of the worst places of my life. It was a weekend, and every single place that we were walking by, there was a huge line out the door. Every single place. And so my friend is getting like so discouraged because, these lines are so long. When are we ever even going to get inside? And so I called up someone that wasn't even a close friend of mine, but someone that I used to be in Korean class with. And I knew that he owned a bar in Hongdae. And so I just messaged, hey, I know we haven't spoken in a while, but my friend's birthday is today. We can't get in anywhere. Would there be any way that, you could let us in? And of course, he was like, please come. Yes, I will let you in. I'll meet you outside. So we walk up to the front of the door. He comes out. He lets us cut this huge line, and he gets us this great table and brings her, this birthday celebration for free just to celebrate her. And I'm going like, woo! I hate being here. But for her, amen, she's having a great time, right? And again, my people pleasing, I'm very much like an older sister to those around me. I'm just so focused on, are you okay? Are you okay? My other friend came to meet us, and it's getting towards the end of the night. It's getting kind of late. And I was like, you know what? Let me make sure you guys get your taxis. Let me make sure that you get home safe. And I did. And of course, this acquaintance, this person, he sees me outside, getting in the taxis, and eventually he comes over and is like, oh my gosh, are you leaving so soon? And I was like, oh, I just wanted to make sure that they got home safe. And he was just very like, we didn't get the chance to talk, and I'm over here, okay, I gotta be people pleasing again, right? He was so kind to let us in. And so I was like, okay, I'll talk with this person. He was like, come inside, I'd really love to talk. We haven't talked in so long. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to go home. But okay, I go inside, and of course he takes us into this like separate side space. And I still can't believe, that I stayed. He got me a very strong drink, and I don't really have much recollection after that moment. When this incident happened, I remember being like, how am I here again? How is this happening again? How? And I remember just being like, God, are you there? Do you see me? Do you see what's going on? I had always assumed and had this picture in my head that the day of the incident, that if there was a God, he turned his back on me. It happened and he didn't see it. And he could have stopped it, but he didn't because his back was turned. I wanted to concave inwards and not tell anybody what happened again, but I needed help. I'm in a foreign country. I don't even know where to go. I don't even know how to get help. So I had to talk to people about what had happened. It wasn't until I found myself in that place of really needing help and really having to talk these things out with people that I realized how much blame I was putting on myself and how twisted the lies had become. Bringing people into this pain, into this horrible circumstance, even if you don't have a lot of friends, just telling one person, a family member, a friend, telling one person who will still love you and who is not going to make you feel worse, but hold it and carry it with you. That is definitely the first step on the healing journey, because you're not meant to carry any of this by yourself. And so I opened up. It was so hard, but I opened up. And that was how the first step of healing came, because my friends were helping me see I need to go get help. I need to go to the hospital. This happened less than 72 hours ago, and that is the time frame that you must go and seek help, because that is when data can be retrieved. I got the help that I needed. I woke up this day, very soon after the incident, I woke up. I felt like I was to look out. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than it was like whispered within me. I felt like I was to look out for these words, break these chains. You could have thought of it as a passing thought, but I held on to it. And there was this concert that I was going to watch online, and I was watching the concert online, and I kept thinking, maybe somebody in this concert's going to say break these chains. No one says break these chains. I decided to pick up and read my Bible. I don't know. And I'm reading my Bible, and there's nothing about chains. There's nothing about breaking nothing. And one of my friends said, I really want to come and speak with you and pray with you. My friend comes to meet me. It's a beautiful pre-spring day. Everything is still it looks dead, but the weather's getting nicer. We're sitting on this blanket. And I don't tell my friend anything about this break the chain thing. And so my friend's just praying for me. And as they're praying, they literally say, Lord, help Megan to break these chains, break these lies that she's been believing all of these years. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, it's the words, but maybe I'm overthinking it, but those were the words I was supposed to look out for. And as my friend is praying, this story comes back to their mind. There's this story in the Bible about a woman who had been bleeding internally for 12 years. And basically, she had heard that Jesus was in town, and Jesus was known to do all these miraculous healings. And in the story, she is technically deemed an unclean woman because she can't stop bleeding. And unclean people must remain outside of the town. They shouldn't enter the town. But she knew Jesus was coming into the town, and so she still fought the crowds. Literally, she was just saying, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I know that I will be healed. And so with faith and with determination, she rushed into the city, and people started recognizing her as the internal bleeding woman. And why are you in the city? And she was still trying to press through these crowds just to get the hem of the garment. And as my friend is praying, I remember they were like, help Megan to just reach out to grab the hem of your garment, Lord. And as they're praying for me, I'm looking out over this dead park. There's not a single green tree, like not a single leaf on any of these trees. But as they're praying, I look and I see dangling in the wind this one leaf that's like just, and I was like, what the heck? What is that? We're through all of winter. We're in March. Why is there this one leaf that's like fighting for its dear life, like trying so hard? And I felt led to go up to it. I don't know why. I just felt led to go up to this one leaf. And I walk up to this leaf and I realize that the reason why that leaf is still hanging on is because a spider web actually caught this leaf up. And it was tangled. This one little leaf was tangled up in this spider web. And as I'm standing there, I felt within me, I felt suddenly this revelation that there have been these lies I have been believing about myself that I have been holding on to since the very first incident. My existence has been tangled up in this web of lies. And I started getting these pictures, understanding that who I am, if I'm like a flower, first the roots have to go, into the ground. And then that's when the top part can start springing up. But it's almost like the roots of who I am have been tangled up in these lies of webs. And I felt that same picture, that same prayer that this person had just prayed over me. I felt like I needed to reach out and grab this leaf, to reach out in faith and just grab it and break it down and say, I will not believe these lies about myself anymore. I am not going to believe the lie that I'm not worthy of love. I'm not going to believe the lie that this is just all my fault, because it's impossible if you've been taken advantage of that it is all your fault. And when I did that, when I grabbed that leaf, literally, it felt like the wind rushed out of me, and I literally fell onto the ground, not whoa, dramatically, but I just needed to sit down. And when I sat down at the very bottom of the tree where the leaf was hanging, it was the only thing green in this entire area. There were 3 little buds that were coming out of the trunk of that tree. And usually when you see 3, it's the sign of the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It felt like in this moment, God was meeting me. And I literally felt God say that he wants to bloom with me. He wants to remove these lies and he wants to bloom with me. And I went back up to my friend and I was just like, I don't know what just happened, but I feel like God wants to bloom with me. We started talking about how my identity has been so misunderstood. As a Christian, I have felt more of a servant than a daughter of God. And I felt like God was trying to teach me, I love you so much. You're my precious daughter, and I want you to see how much I love you. I want you to see that I see you as a daughter, not an object, not a servant, but I see you individually and I love you. And so I walked back into my house, and it was a year prior, almost exactly, to the moment where this bloom happened. God remembered that he gave me a picture in my mind. I thought he turned his back. It happened and he didn't see it. And he could have stopped it, but he didn't because his back was turned. But it was almost like that picture had been paused and God hit play. And God turned back around, and when he turned back around, he was crying. And it wasn't that he turned his back on me, but that he did have to close his eyes for just a moment. But when he came back, he was weeping, because it is so hard for him to see the injustices in this world. It is so hard for him to have to see so many people keep getting taken advantage of. But it's not how he originally designed this world to be. It's so broken. And it's broken because we have chosen ourselves. We've chosen to be selfish. We've chosen to think of ourselves only. And we've chosen to forget him, his true and his perfect love. And God reminded me that He weeps with me. He cries with me. He hates these injustices, but they will be paid for. There's no injustice that ever happens in this world that will not be paid for. And I think it was later that day, that story, the internal bleeding woman that, reaches out to grab the hem. I was like, you know what? I should look up that story again. And it's in Luke 8. And I'm not going to read all of this, but I just want to explain. In this story, there is a dad that's coming to seek Jesus for healing for his little daughter, and his little daughter is 12 years old. And then the internal bleeding woman, it says that she has been bleeding for 12 years. And I start reading it, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's so weird, because my birthday is 12/12, and I've always loved the number 12. It's been my favorite number. I wonder why. And as I'm reading through the story, I'm like, wait, that's so crazy. Literally, the internal bleeding woman, runs out and grabs the hem of Jesus's garment. And even though it's just the hem of his garment, Jesus notices there's all these people that are pressing in from on every side in a crowd. And he's like, everybody stop. Someone touched my jacket. And it's like, of course somebody touched your jacket. There's a whole crowd and they're like pressing in on you. But Jesus is like, no, I felt power leave me. He wants to know what happened. Who just touched me? And the internal bleeding woman, she's been trying to hide all these years. She's been looking for healing all of these years. And she found healing and she just wanted to hide and keep it to herself. But Jesus stops and said, somebody touched me. Someone touched my garment. Who was it? And she had to come into the light. And she had to confess and say, it was me. And as I was reading this, Jesus says to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. And in the entire Bible, this is the only moment where Jesus looks on a woman and calls her daughter. And God had just been telling me, I want you to understand you're my daughter. You have felt so used all of your life, but I don't use you. I love you. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, 12/12. And so I call my friend who had been praying with me. And I was like, you'll never believe this, but I'm reading the story of the internal bleeding woman. And it literally says 12/12. I wonder why 12/12 is in this story. And in that moment, that same voice that told me to look out for break those chains, that same voice that said, let's bloom together, that same voice said, I love you so much that I hand knit your birthday into this story for this moment. I want you to understand how much I love you and how much I see you as my daughter. And I started to cry. And literally at that moment, I looked at the clock and it said 12/12. And my friend and I were like, what is going on? And we were like, I think we need to pray. I think praying sounds good. So we start praying and my friend is like, praying for me and they're getting caught up. They're like, there's this verse, I can't think of it. What is it? And my friend's like, strengthen Megan's hands, knees. Like, what is that verse? And they're flipping, I can hear them flipping through their Bible, but they literally went speechless and they were like, no way. Therefore, lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees. This was the verse on my mind just now. And what verse is that? Hebrews 12:12. I know there are people out there who do not believe that God is real. I know there are people out there who feel so hurt, like if there is a good God, how could a good God let these horrible things happen to me? And it took me a long time to come to understand this. But God created the world and it was perfect. There was no illness, no sickness, no sadness, no deception, no cancer. No one was getting taken advantage of. They were walking in relationship with God and it was perfect. But it's when deception started to sneak its way into the story. And some people could say, why would God even allow Satan to exist? Well, the reason why was because he gave us free will. God gave us in this world free will so that we could make our own choices, so that we all wouldn't be these robotic creatures that just do things and, like a little train on a track. No, he gave us the opportunity to make choices, to choose to love, to choose our jobs, to choose what we do in any given day. But he hand knit within us this desire for relationship. He hand knit in us this knowledge of knowing what is right and wrong, even though we were never taught. No toddler was taught to disobey. No toddler was taught to go against what mom and dad are saying. But naturally, mom says don't, and suddenly they want to, right? This sinful nature got birthed into us as a result of free will, as a result of Eve choosing to disobey the one and only commandment God gave, which was do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And she did. And not only that, Adam was with her. It says in the Bible that Adam was with her when she ate of the fruit. And Adam then ate as well. So Adam could have also stopped her as well. Because of the free will, they had the choice. And they chose to go against the one and only rule that God gave them. And as a result, we are all born into this brokenness. We're all born into this broken and twisted world. And if you look outside, you'll see it's only getting worse. It's only getting darker out there. It's only getting sadder. And then the longer you live, the more that you're going to see and taste good and evil. And the older you get, the more that you're going to see in this world, and the more that you're going to really understand how broken this world is. And so I experienced these horrible things in my life. I experienced brokenness, and I experienced such broken relationship. And it was through these moments, it was through me coming to the very end of myself in such pain and hurt. It took me coming to the end of myself to realize I had been looking for love in all the wrong places. But because I was so desperate, because there's this core part of me that so desperately wants to be seen and loved, I accepted far less than what I deserved. It wasn't until I had nothing left that I could truly see that he was everything that I need. And from that moment, it's been a journey. It hasn't been perfect. It's not like I suddenly feel like a daughter of God. I'm still having to fight and realize that my value and my worth is not in what I have to offer someone. It's not in how many people see me as worthy of dating or, being able to find a husband. I realize that God's view of me is filled with love, and my eyes being filled with him is where I find hope. It's where I find healing. In the Bible, it says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And I needed that freedom from the chains of the lies that I'd been believing about myself for so many years. When I first was trying to understand about God and trying to understand if he was real, it wasn't me just finding all the answers by myself that actually things made sense. It was me being humble enough to just say, God, I don't know if you're real, but show yourself to me. And I kept my eyes open. And can I tell you that was the best prayer that I ever prayed, because from that moment on, God has revealed himself to me time and time and time again. And I truly believe if you don't know God, can I just humbly beg you to just try, just give him a chance. Just say, God, if you're real, show yourself to me. It will be the best thing that you've ever prayed, the best words that could have ever come out of your mouth, because God has made himself so clear to me, and I want him to so desperately make himself clear to you. Because that is where freedom is found. That is where the healing begins. But can I just quickly say that you are loved? You're worth loving. And God loves you so much. And he had you click on this video so that I could tell you that. But it's really him telling you that through me. You are so, so loved. And this heaviness does not define you. What has happened to you does not define you. What's happened to you can remind you of where you've come, but it doesn't define who you are. Get to know him and allow him to teach you how he defines you when you're his, how he defines you. Beautiful, beautiful daughter of God. Lord, I don't know who's watching this video. I don't know where they're at in their life. I don't know how much hurt they hold. I don't know how much healing they have come to taste and see. But I pray, God, that you would meet them in a miraculous way. I pray you would reveal yourself to the person on the other side of the screen as you've revealed yourself to me, God. They're cherished by you. They are loved by you, and I don't know if they know that. And I want them to find healing and freedom, God. And so I pray that you, the author and perfecter, would meet them supernaturally, God. Meet them, help them to find that healing, help them to reach out and grab a hold of this truth, God. We need you. I love you. And I pray for my friend. I pray that you would help us both to love you and to know you more. It's in your name I pray. Amen. If you want to hear more stories of how God has revealed himself to me, I'm going to link. I have another podcast that I'm going to start up again and start recording more stories, so you can go check that out. I'm also going to leave some resources down below and some videos that I think are really helpful to help you understand how you're not at fault for this horrible incident and to help you understand just how much you are loved by God.